Welcome to Creative in Tech, a podcast show powered by ReadSpeaker AI. I'm your host, Carrie Roberts, and I'm the brand evangelist for North America at ReadSpeaker. This show is all about highlighting the various brands and organizations that are creatively using one of the fastest growing spaces in technology, conversational AI. And in these next few conversations, we're going to be chatting specifically about the banking and finance space and how that vertical is utilizing this type of technology in a creative way to help improve, innovate, and grow their customer strategy and journey. And I have another fabulous guest with me today. For our discussion is Srikanth Chinmay. He is the CEO of Engati, a conversational AI automation platform. Welcome. So thrilled to have you here today.
Glad to be here, Carrie. Thanks for having me.
So before we get into our overall chat, I want to start with you personally. You studied engineering, you studied finance, you worked for NASA Research and Google for a while, as well as other companies. Now you're with Engati. So you've had this passion for the tech space for a while. What is it about conversational AI that you're super excited about, that gets you passionate about it then and now?
So definitely, I think, as you mentioned, it's an area that has just transformed in the last few years, Carrie. And for me, it really brings together some core concepts that I've always held true. I think I've always looked at applying technology in a way that is very approachable and something that can really address a day-to-day need. And I feel we finally have a technology space and a technology base in this area around conversational AI, which is a lot more approachable now and can actually transform the way businesses and customers can connect with each other. For me, Engati has been at the forefront of this. Again, very quickly, it's been in the space around transforming customer experiences for businesses to connect and engage with their customers wherever they exist. And that was one of the places where I felt Engati had done some really interesting things around not being constrained by where customers may want to talk to a business with. It started off, again, Engati started off as a no-code chatbot platform a few years back. But over the last year, the team had put together some really strong, innovative, progressive things around how to take the AI and the natural language processing capabilities and putting it into a much more applied space, but also bring in the human touch into it. And that platform, for me, really brings together the strength of what an automation platform can do along with the human touch. And I think given my experience both in building consumer-facing applications when I was at Google, and post that I had an opportunity to be at a startup where I was managing customer service myself. So when I understand and when I see the challenges that any small, medium-sized or fast-growing business has in connecting with the customers, a technology platform like Engati really kind of shines through and comes through to me. And really, again, it appeals to me as a user. And I felt I could bring my experience and really make it apply to all the businesses that can benefit from Engati.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Like you said, you've been having this passion and education and knowledge in this space for a long time. And as you said, you're seeing it grow, being used, being improved. So it's a very exciting space to be in as a whole. Now, we're talking a little bit today about the banking and financial sector, which is one of the spaces that your team focuses on. When you look at where the banking and financial space is today and where it's going, what are you kind of noticing, or is there any data or trends that you're seeing overall?
Yeah, so it's again, I would say the last few years, and especially the last 18, 24 months has been fairly transformative across a lot of industries. And I think it's just as applicable to the finance, banking, and we also work very closely in the adjacent insurance space. So I think both fintech in general, but also consumer-facing offerings in the banking finance structure areas are going through a fairly big transformation around digitization. I think it's just definitely been accelerated over the last year and a half, given the situation we have been. But I think one thing that's becoming very, very clear is customer expectations and consumer expectations are really being shaped by what they are seeing day in and day out across all of their experiences online. And that expectation is actually something that they are expecting uniformly across all touch points that they have at different businesses. So it doesn't matter whether a customer is dealing with a retailer or a media streaming service, or whether it be banking or insurance. They're expecting the same level of experience and the same simplified experience around how they interact with the businesses. And that expectation is kind of becoming like a table stakes that any business has to meet. I would say from what we are seeing through our customers in the banking and insurance space, they're definitely at a crossroads. I think they are seeing that they have to reinvent themselves a little bit as a lot of businesses move online and to an always on state. It used to be the case that you could operate during fixed business hours and all, but that expectation is no longer there. I think consumers expect you to be, they expect themselves to be able to do whatever they want, whenever they want, and through whatever mediums that they feel comfortable with. So we're definitely seeing our customers in this space realizing that and coming through really strong and wanting to be able to address that without any hindrances. I think the specific aspect that we are seeing really strong in this space, I would say, is because of the nature of the information that is being transferred, there is a heightened level of awareness around the need to build trust. Really make sure that you are appealing to sometimes what may be sensitive information that may be coming back and forth from coming from the user to you as a business and vice versa. So finding a way to address the needs while at the same time not compromising on the trust and the security is key and paramount. And building a much deeper connection with the customers. Many times there's a lot of things that they may not necessarily understand evidently, and in the past they would have had to wait online and talk to an agent or talk to somebody, maybe be on hold for a really long time. We're seeing conversational AI is really kind of coming in handy in situations like this, where it can understand what the customer is asking for and try to come back with very pertinent but very targeted information that can help clarify some esoteric point that the customer may be confused about. So I think those are definitely areas that we see a lot of strong innovation happening in, and the platforms like Engati are also accelerating the transition to that.
Yeah, you said a lot there, and talking about, I think you're right, this idea that it's not just banking and finance, that if you are speaking or typing or you're having an experience with, a retail institution, you want the same with your bank, with your education. You want to keep that consistent, that you should be able to do that in any capacity. So that's a really good point. And then you talked a little bit about, too, this idea of trust. And obviously for banking and finance, there's a lot more security that maybe goes on in other areas. But can you tell us a little bit more about how an organization and even banking and finance can build more trust with conversational AI?
Yeah, I think the first thing that I would definitely want to share, Kerry, and I think most of your audience may have already seen this. I think conversational AI is, I think first thing we have to recognize is it's a very hard problem. It's not about just putting up a chatbot on a website or your store or your mobile app. That used to be I think there was a few years back that it felt like conversational AI was just about putting up a chatbot and having it starting to answer questions. But that's not where the meat of the problem. I think it's really about we should think about conversational AI it's really about a new form of application development, very similar to how we used to build websites a few years back and then went into mobile apps. Conversational AI is a new paradigm on how you want to appeal, and it's really about how you, as a business, can connect with your customer and address their questions that they may have in a conversational manner, but in a much more interactive manner. And for that, I would say one of the things that is really core is we have really imbibed this concept of conversation driven design. So when you are thinking about putting up an assistant on your website or in your app, it's really about understanding what the user is trying to get done, and really putting yourself in the user's shoes, and understanding how they are likely to interact with your business is super important. In the context of obviously the specific industry we're talking about here in business and in banking and insurance, we feel that a lot of that in the past has been built around interactions that customers have had with either agents on a phone, or could be agents on a support-based system. I think using that as the jumping off point is very, very important. It's not that you're going to build something from scratch, but really trying to take what has been done in a offline manner, but try to use a platform which enables conversational AI to really scale that to a point where you can come close to what happens in real life. So I think that's the conversation-driven development process is really important, because that really puts the onus on understanding the journey that you're taking each customer through, what questions they're likely to have, and then how do you address each aspect of that user journey with an appropriate flow in the system. So that's really one thing that we find is key. The other thing that we have seen is there is a huge repository of knowledge that most organizations already have internally, and rather than having to replicate it, I think it's really important for organizations to think about how to deploy the technologies that are available now, to seed it with that information as opposed to starting from scratch. Specifically in the case of Engati, we have been very successful in putting out some capabilities around what we call semantic search, but essentially it can take information that is already available within an organization and seed your conversational assistant with that, as opposed to having you or somebody having to replicate that entire information. It's like we can bootstrap it very, very quickly and make that go faster. And that way you're really leveraging all the information and all the knowledge that you have captured over years and years of interaction that you've had with your customers already. So I think those are important aspects that we've seen are coming in very handy. And the more you can keep that front and center in the design process, the more efficient and more effective the whole solution will be.
Yeah, and like you were saying earlier too, building trust is about meeting your customers' needs, being able to feel like they are being heard. And like you said, I think when chatbots first came out, people just, similar to voice bots as well, they kind of just like put it out to say they had it. And then they were like, it's not working. And it's because you do have to go through, like anything else, and create a process and a strategy. And as you mentioned, the conversational design, but you can pull from certain things that you have already. So I think those are all really good points. And like I said, your company has worked with financial institutions all over the world. Can you share with us any case studies you have, why they decided to use a chatbot and conversational AI, how it worked, and maybe what some of their feedback or data was from having implemented it?
I think the biggest reason they came to something like our platform was this promise that they could meet the customer needs at any time of the hour. So really round the clock customer service is it's one thing to say you can do it, but one thing to really make it happen.
Yes.
So having a conversational assistant with functional on their main touch point with the customer is super important. That has definitely been one core reason that most people have. But I think the value that we have been able to add, I would say, is going beyond the 24/7 experience. The personalization and the context that you're building about a customer. So with a system like Engati, and again, there are all the offerings here can essentially start addressing this. But with a system like Engati, you're not just having a transactional interaction with your customer, but really having an ongoing conversation. So because the system is creating a profile of the customer, you understand what conversations they have had in the past with you, what their previous questions have been. You may have already asked. In the case of Engati, we allow businesses to connect with the customer irrespective of where they are. So they can come to you on your website, they can come to you on any of the messaging channels, whether it be it Facebook or WhatsApp or Telegram or any of the popular messaging channels. But once you know who the customer is, you essentially you have a much more holistic view of who the user is. And with that information, you can use the historical data that you have about the user to provide them a much more of a personalized experience. I think that has been a very strong element of why businesses have liked using what we've been able to provide. Specifically in the banking and insurance space, I would say we are seeing some huge adoption around automation coming in handy and being able to address maybe 70 to 80% of the queries that come to you on the website. So it's only the more involved and the more esoteric questions get handed off to a human agent. We do have a very tightly and seamless transfer, and I think that's another important element of. So you don't want to think about a chatbot platform as being just purely chatbot and purely automation or purely human. I think you really need to think about a system which makes it very seamless to go back and forth, because many a times you may be able to automate some of the back and forth that happens with the customer, but there will be cases where you may have to bring in a human expert to assist in addition. But you don't want that to feel like you are starting the conversation from scratch again. You really want to have it seamlessly start off, transfer to a human who can help you, and then when the human has or when the agent has added whatever value that he or she had to add, it comes back into the automation flow. So I think that's something that we are very, very proud of having implemented and gotten done well within the platform. And we're seeing that is actually coming in very, very handy with a lot of our customers, where they have a small live agent team, but they're also able to handle all the surges that happen when you have a busy time of the day or a busy time of the week, 2x or 3x more than what you're normally expecting, and still not overload the human side of the equation at all. So yeah, I think overall that's one. And then we're also seeing a lot of new fronts being explored. So it's not just about post sales or like support and assistance afterwards, but it's really also about converting visitors on your website, visitors on your business to become actual customers or qualified leads. So we're seeing a lot of interest, at least in insurance and banking, where given the investment they're making in online ads and bringing traffic to the website, how do you then understand where the user is? When a visitor comes to your website, many times you don't know who they are, but very quickly qualifying them, asking them the right kind of questions, and making them go to the right parts of the website, and being able to take them down a journey where they become qualified customers is a huge aspect. And we have some of our customers who have been able to see almost 80% of their visitors on their website becoming qualified leads. So I think there's more value in both the upper funnel, where you're trying to appeal to somebody who is not yet a customer, as well as further down the line after they're a customer and they have ongoing back and forth that they need to do with you.
Yeah, again, I want to unpack some of that a little bit. So we talked about, if you're just joining us or listening in, that, there's kind of a few different areas that conversational AI chatbots could help. So we're talking about on the support side, you have availability 24/7. You have then also the ability to keep all that information, which I was talking to someone the other day, which is great, because sometimes you will speak to a person, they transfer you again, and you have to tell your story another time, and it's frustrating. So being able to have that conversational AI take that information and then keep a record of it is important. And then the third piece you kind of talked about was there are times you need a human. So having that AI be able to transfer you to the individual is huge. And I think the other piece you talked about too, it's not just about customer support, but it is also about the ability to kind of lead generate. And I personally have used chatbots in the past to do that. And again, like you said earlier, when it's done well and the conversational design is thought through and you have that automation process, you can have that opportunity as well. So I think those are really great points and use cases that you guys have kind of created and shared as well. When we think about the other side of this conversational AI, which is voice, and just when you think just in general, where do you think kind of voice fits into chatbots and websites and everything else? And how do you kind of see that be kind of like an added bonus to maybe all these other things that people are doing and being omni-channel?
Yeah, I think voice has a very important role to play, and I think where we are seeing right now the trend is a lot of the voice interactions are a lot more, I would say, point to point, very targeted Q&A that happens. So voice has not gotten to the point where you can necessarily have like a multi-turn, what we call multi-turn, which is essentially having a conversation back and forth with a system, like you would have with a live person. I think we are getting there. The technologies are definitely getting there. But if you, I think going back to what I was addressing earlier, if you can implement or if you can get a system going which handles the multi-turn conversations more based on a text space, because I think you can get a better understanding of what the customer is really wanting to go through. Turning on the voice capabilities on top of it is a fairly trivial matter, and I would say probably in the next few quarters to years, I think you should see that coming a lot more pervasive, especially on mobile platforms. I think less so on. I think I don't see users actively wanting to talk to a website on a computer, but if they are on a mobile device and they are interacting with the business, voice is definitely going to be a key element on how they will interact in those situations. So I think as the usage pattern transfers a lot more to mobile, I would say that's a growing trend that we're seeing definitely with a lot of our customers also.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, mobile, you're on the go. Sometimes you're in the car, and there are easier ways. So it's what we talk about a lot on this show is like, again, omni-channel. Where is the person at? What do they need? As you mentioned earlier, the expectation is all industries, all businesses should be able to hit all of these touch points. If you, again, we're talking about banking and finance today, do you have maybe one tip or piece of advice for people in the banking and finance industry in terms of either how to use conversational AI or ways that they could use it best for their organization?
Yeah, I would say, I think, and it's been a journey with a lot of our, again, this is, I think we've definitely seen this happen. It's a transition that's happening fast, but a lot of these systems really benefit. Again, a lot of the conversational AI systems are cloud-based, and I think there has definitely been some hesitation around moving en masse into a cloud-based system. But I would say to people in the finance and banking industry, I think cloud and the cloud-based services are as robust and are really getting really capable in terms of what they can power. And with an intense focus on privacy and security that is built into these systems from the ground up, I think they should move to it with confidence, because the benefit of having a cloud-based system which can constantly constantly evolving and constantly getting improved is far greater than having something that is running behind a firewall or behind in your local environment, which becomes it has its own administrative challenges. So I would say the biggest place that I would see cloud-based services like ours and others could really help is help the businesses that are wanting to move fast to be able to do it without getting encumbered with a lot of the administrative challenges that come with it.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. If people want to learn more about anything we spoke about, or they want to connect with anyone at Engati or yourself, where is the best place to do that?
Yeah, I would love to definitely take up any follow-ups to this conversation or anything else that we may be exploring. Engati's no-code, low-code approach is very, very universal. And again, there are a few industries that we are going deep on. You can learn more at engati.com, engati.com. And especially you can learn more about our offerings for different verticals like banking, insurance, e-commerce, retail, and others. But I'd love to have people check it out and see how we could help and share more insights and learn together.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for, again, sharing your insights, really kind of breaking down these great use cases. We greatly appreciate you being here.
It was a pleasure, Carrie. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening and watching. Don't forget to subscribe to ReadSpeaker AI's YouTube channel, as well as our audio podcast show called Creative in Tech, wherever you listen to podcasts.